First phase of cross-platform play is on for a bit, and it's pretty smooth, at least in terms of DE smooth. But we hadn't really tested anything. To my knowledge, Xbox pretty much runs on the same kernel as Windows 10, so things should work together without too much hassle to combine Xbox and PC players. And on the other aspect of testing it, were there any big and meaningful updates during that? Because some of you might remember launches of big updates such as Planes of Eidolon, Fortuna, Railjack, Deimos and such. You basically could not play in squads. It was a host transfer simulator 24/7 with heavy losses in progression. Experience was smoother for solo players, but the point of crossplay is co-op play and enhancing that experience. Remember the Scarlet Spear operation, when two squads needed to communicate to make it work? It was such a stress that even the devs said that they want to bring it back, but they are not that eager to go through that stress again. In Railjack, if you split squad mates between objectives, the game cannot drive AI for enough enemies to fill all instances, making it a subpar experience of people walking through empty tilesets. And what do those things have in common? A host. Host system means that one player in a squad is taking on a role of a server and is hosting session on its hardware. That means enemy AI, lots of math and other calculation have to happen for everyone, alongside host's own gameplay being fluently rendered. It's a system that DE is sticking with, that relies on people not running extremely outdated hardware and not running it at thermonuclear temperatures, and not having PCs full of bloatware that clogs everything. But even with what would be an average PC these days, it's still very limited because apart from host PC making sure the session is running smoothly, it also needs to deliver performance to run the game. So many sacrifices need to be put in place. DE's AI is basically a random decision generator. Our pets are brain dead and many optimizations are in place to run things smoothly. But that gets shaken with big updates. And if host system was that shaken during updates that we mentioned above, imagine what would happen when you mix in several platforms running completely different systems. Personally, I have nothing against crossplay. I think there's a fun element to it, even though for the most part it's a PR move of being all-inclusive and everything that goes along with it. Just the way it's being done here seems like DE is trying to build the house without building the foundation first. That thick, juicy foundation being dedicated servers to host our sessions. With that, we wouldn't only have a higher quality product that's far more enjoyable to players on all platforms, but we'd also have more redundancy to progression losses. Also, DE would have more horsepower to run a decent AI that has predictable decision making. More complex missions can be put in place. Raids. Imagine then buggy raids now on cross-platform, being hosted on a smartphone. Dedicated servers would also mean lower ping, because server processes the data faster as it's optimized for that and does not have to do all the stuff on the side like your PC does. But what we're likely to get with cross-platform updates moving forward is none of the benefits that we'd get from dedicated servers, but instead we are likely to get all the host-related issues amplified tenfold. And this is not just a rant from players' perspective. If Scarlet Spear was such a fire and a nightmare for devs, I can only imagine how stressful will it be to work at DE whenever you have a big update coming. So much so that it might limit what DE is willing to go with, how far are they willing to push the game. End result being a lower quality product, a game that's far from its vision. Another small issue I want to talk about is that everyone was forced into this test. You can disable crossplay, but everyone has it auto-enabled and you cannot play with people who have different settings. For tests, this is fine-ish. But if cross-platform ends up being like that if, God forbid, I'm not in the mood for a random off chance for somebody to host my game on their smartphone while sitting on their metro ride to work, I would still like to be able to play with players that share the same platform as I'm using, regardless of their settings. Otherwise, I feel like this would have a very opposite effect. Instead of unifying everyone, it would separate people more, making them less eager to play with others. Which does hurt, and not just the player. It hurts DE as well because of how engagement drives sales and stuff. I'm not against it, I'm just skeptical about DE's own implementation of it. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but I'm pretty positive it will be shaky at best and will cause a lot of issues with every update for both players and the developers. And personally, I cannot understand the business perspective of it. You save money by not renting servers, but instead you hire more people and pay them tons of overtime hours on every update to put out fires and make the game playable. The only downside to servers hosting sessions is paying that server power, nothing more. But it's not like DE needs to get like 128 ticked servers. They don't need like Faceit servers or Escape from Tarkov servers. 30-ish ticked servers would be perfectly fine for whatever DE plans to do with Warframe until 2035. But as with many things in life, it's about the cost. And while DE is severely expanding their business, hiring lots of new people, making another game, they do not think it's cost effective to take what would be few salaries worth of money to have those servers in place. Which would save a lot of stress off of developers, would make the end product of higher quality with less sacrifices, and would make for a far more enjoyable experience for all the players on all the platforms, and would make cross-platform work better. All that just makes this cross-platform implementation look more like a PR move than a big move to improve the game. Thank you for watching, subscribe to help the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.